The boy tasted salt on the wind, even before the Sea of Dorn came into view. Rickon Stark sat on the aft rail of the codebreaker, bare feet swinging above dark water, black hair tangled by weeks of spray and sun. He was 8, though the sea and the passage of days had already carved hollows beneath his cheeks. Somewhere astern lay White Harbor, the last gray finger of the north. Ahead rose an ochre crescent of coastline, the color of baked blood. Through the murmuring creak of ropes and gull cries he heard familiar footsteps. Sir Davos Seaworth, one hand on the pommel that hid his mailed stump, halted beside him. "Nearly there, lad," Davos said. "Sunspear's just beyond that point. Dorn. Hotter than a baker's cauldron and twice as stubborn." Rickon nodded, pretending calm, but a shiver slipped down his spine. Father always said the north was big. But the world. He stared at the horizon's rim, wide as any sky above Winterfell's tallest tower. "It's bigger than I thought." "It grows wider the longer you look at it," said Davos. "But remember who you are. The world can't take that away unless you let it." "Bemnexei." "Who am I?" Rickon wondered, hugging Shaggy Dog's empty leather collar. A Stark without a direwolf. A son without a father. Yet father lived. Or so Maester Luwin's last raven had insisted before war swallowed ravens and men alike. A prince. Some whispered. A hostage. Others muttered. Osterling. The letter from Prince Doran Martell claimed. Guest, ward, Ali. Strangers wore many masks in a time when the Iron Throne's swords bristled across the 7 kingdoms. The wind shifted. A faint breath of fire-hot sand curled around them. Below, sailors hauled at oars, their sun-browned shoulders slick with sweat. Dornish rowers sang low in a tongue Rickon did not know, voices rising and falling like waves against a red cliff. Every note was foreign, yet something tugged in his chest. A restless echo of the wolf he had buried in Winterfell's Godswood after Ramsay Snow's torches. Home died, the sea seemed to say. Find a new pack, cub. He touched the collar again. Shaggy Dog had howled at moons Rickon never saw. Chased scents Rickon could not smell. Killed the horses of men who came armored in Bolton flayed-men. And yet it was the boy who paid the price when arrows hissed and the direwolf drowned in blood and snow. Davos pried the collar from frozen fur, its iron rings crusted with ice and sorrow. "Keep it," he'd urged. "Remember." Rickon remembered. Each step southward, memory grew heavier, until he felt shackled to ghosts. But ghosts did not sweat. They did not squint at horizons painted in molten gold. They did not yearn for something unnamed that might wait beneath the Dornish sun. Dusk turned water into beaten copper when the codebreaker dropped anchor offshore. Light clung to the castle of Sunspear, whose spear-like tower of the sun pierced the reddening sky. Smaller spires clustered around its base, daggers of the daughters, sailors called them. From afar, they looked fragile as sandcastles. Up close, they were stone teeth, ancient and defiant. Longboats ferried passengers ashore. Rickon climbed into the first, Davos steadying him. The oarsmen rowed past a flotilla of painted skiffs, their hulls bright with oranges and yellows. Dornishmen lounged within, laughing beneath striped awnings, while musicians plucked strings Rickon had never seen. One boat's crew called greetings in accented common tongue. "Welcome to Sunspear, little wolf." Laughter followed. A woman with black hair bound in coils lifted a wineskin toward him. Wine spilled like sunset across the water. Rickon ducked his head, cheeks burning. Did they mock him? Or honor him? He could not tell. The quayside stank of salt fish and spiced oil. Merchants in loose linen shouted over crates of pomegranates. A camel bawled, stomping at gnats. Near the customs arch stood a column of men in copper scale and blue turbans. Martell spearmen. Their captain approached, helm tucked beneath one arm. His bronze skin glowed warm even in twilight. "I am Sararon Corgyle," he announced, voice deep and smooth. "Prince Doran bids you welcome. Follow if it please." His dark eyes appraised Rickon. Curiosity, not pity, dwelled there. Rickon straightened. They wound through narrow alleys fragrant with citron and roasting lamb. Paper lanterns flittered overhead, each one a captured star. Laughter spilled from doorways as dusk surrendered to a velvet night, freckled with unfamiliar constellations. Somewhere, drums pounded a slow heartbeat. Flutes spiraled like smoke. The music slipped into Rickon's blood, coaxed his feet to move in time. Soon, sweat dampened the collar of his northern wool, too heavy for this place. Davos noticed and guided him beneath a vine-strung arcade where a fountain bubbled cool. Sunspear's palace was no Winterfell. Its walls curved like dunes, painted the color of ripe apricots, its courtyards open to moonlight and scented with jasmine. Rickon half expected ghosts of kings to stalk Winterfell's stone corridors, but here laughter echoed against mosaic floors, light and quick like sparrows flitting through pomegranate branches. He felt the loss sharply, yet somewhere within bloomed a seed of wonder. They halted beneath an airy colonnade. A chair on wheels awaited behind a low table of carved teak. Prince Doran Martell reclined upon cushions, his heavy-lidded eyes studying the newcomers. Beside him stood 3 young women, their gowns sheer as dawn. Obara, tall and scarred. Nymeria, eyes liquid amber. And Tyene, sweet-faced with cruel dimples. The sand snakes. Prince Doran's voice was soft as silk on stone. Lord Rickon Stark of Winterfell, be welcome to Sunspear. The salt and son of Dorne are yours, so long as you dwell beneath my roof. He gestured to the women. My daughters will see to your comfort. Rickon bowed, unsure if he should kneel. Davos murmured protocol. The boy mimicked him as best he could. Obara stepped forward. He's small, too soft. She turned to Doran. A wolf cub once survived Dornish sands without fangs. Nymeria answered with a lazy shrug. Fangs grow. Her gold bracelets clinked as she extended a hand to Rickon. Come, little wolf, you look thirsty. Tyene offered a smile sweet as summer wine. And hungry, boys always are. She pressed a fig between his palms, sticky and fragrant. Juice dribbled over his fingers as he bit. He had never tasted anything so bright. Prince Doran's gaze lingered on the collar Rickon wore. Loss is a heavy chain, he murmured. Here perhaps it can be forged anew. Rickon swallowed the fig's pulp, heart hammering. He wanted to ask how one forged chains into wings, but words tangled on his tongue. Moonrise found Rickon alone on a balcony overlooking the Sea of Dorne. The wind brought whispers of palms rustling beyond the walls, a sound like applause for secrets. Behind him, footsteps padded. None of the sand snakes wore shoes indoors. Nymeria Sand leaned against the parapet, curls glimmering silver in moonlight. She held 2 curved knives loosely, as if they were mere leaves. You dream of the wolf, don't you? Rickon flinched. How did you? I dream of serpents, he said. Obara dreams of spears, Tyene of smiles. She turned one blade, catching lunar light. Dreams can guide or consume. Which will yours do? I don't know. He looked at his hands, still sticky with fig syrup he had failed to wash away. Then learn. Nymeria tossed one knife. It spun end over end, biting the wooden post a finger breadth from Rickon's ear. He gasped. She only laughed softly. First lesson: fear cuts deeper than steel. Second, never blink at the strike. Rickon swallowed. Third lesson comes with dawn. She slipped into shadows before he could protest. At dawn, Obara roused him with a kick to the mattress. Up, wolf. She flung a bundle of linen breeches at his head. Northern wool will cook you alive. Outside the training yard, sand shimmered like molten glass. Obara thrust a quarterstaff into his palms. Strike, pot tea. When Rickon hesitated, she swept his legs. He grunted as grit filled his mouth. Again, staff met staff with a crack that shivered his wrists. Obara's blows rained like hail. Bruises bloomed purple on his arms, and still she came. Sweat poured. The sun climbed. Davos watched, jaw clenched but silent, an oath to Prince Doran. Fosterlings must learn the Dornish way. Hours later, Tyene knelt beside Rickon where he sprawled, chest heaving. She dabbed his forehead with a cloth, soaked in mint water. Her voice was honey. Sisters can be cruel for kindness' sake. You will understand. Rickon tasted blood and dust. "I will," he croaked. Cruelty shaped stone into statues. She pressed a prune to his lips. Its sweetness banished the taste of sand. "Obara would carve you into marble." "And you?" he asked. Taine's blue eyes shimmered like shallow seas. "I wield softer tools." Days bled into weeks. The quarters of Sunspear became a maze of scents and colors. Saffron-laced stews, tiled halls where mosaics depicted warriors locked in eternal duels, silken awnings that snapped under desert winds. Rickon learned to wrap a white scarf around his head as sunlight's armor, to drink wine cut with water, to walk softly on hot flagstones lest they blister bare feet. Each dawn, Obara's staff awaited him. She taught footwork first, circles within circles, how to pivot like a lizard atop burning rocks. "You are not a direwolf," she chided. "You cannot depend on brute strength. Use speed, angle, ferocity." When his shins bled, she only nodded. Pain is a teacher. Listen well. By noon, Nymeria claimed him. She drilled daggers. Grip, release, spin. "Your wrist is too stiff. Pretend the blade is a song." She released her own. It whistled, thudded dead center of a painted eye. Music ends precisely on beat. Twilight belonged to Tyne. She brewed teas of chamomile and skullcap. Spoke of poisons gentle and wicked. "A kiss can kill faster than steel," she said, laying vials before him like glass petals. "Taste, but never swallow." Under her gaze, he dipped a pin, touched it to his tongue. Bitter almonds, numbness, tears. She thrust milk of the poppy to his lips in time. His vision blurred, her smile blurred with it. "Remember that sensation. Mercy and murder are cousins." By night, Rickon crept to the balcony, staring northward where stars wheeled above a darkened sea. He spoke into the wind, whispering names. Rob, John, Bran, Arya. The names seemed smaller here, like stones carried far from the river that smoothed them. Yet each whisper carried across waves, he hoped, to ears that still listened. One midnight, he found Davos leaning on the parapet. "Does it ever stop hurting?" Rickon asked. Davos sighed, thumb rubbing the stump within his glove. "Pain changes shape, lad, but it never leaves. You learn to carry it in different ways. These sand snakes, they teach you weapons. Pain can be a weapon too. Sharpen it, but don't let it cut you more than it cuts your foes." "Man?" Rickon nodded, staring at the shimmer of moonlight on waves. He thought of Shaggy Dog's eyes fading as arrows sprouted. Pain, sharpened. He clenched the memory into something hard and bright. By the turning of the moon, Obara announced a journey. The prince's road winds to Hellhold. "You'll ride with me, learn desert tracks, storm dunes, taste thirst until you savor it." They rode south across salt flats where mirages danced like spirits. The sun hammered. Sand scorpions greeted their passing with raised tails. At night, they camped beside cactus groves, beneath heavens dense with unfamiliar stars. Obara cut a shallow bowl into a cactus. Liquid seeped. "Drink. Water hides inside pain." Rickon tasted the bitter sap, life disguised as poison dart. On the third evening, they reached a canyon blanketed in evening blooming, roses the color of rust. Faint drums echoed from distant tents, other feasting fires. Obara dismounted, scanned the horizon. First trial. Find the well hidden by wind. Use sense, silence, patience. She left him with a waterskin half empty. Rickon searched the canyon, every breath hot as fortic air. He listened. Between drum beats, between wind keening over stone. A faint bubbling. No, a hush. He followed it, palm scraping sandstone, until he saw a trickle seeping from a fissure. Beneath thorny brush lay a hollow stone bowl. He cupped the water. It tasted of metal and earth, glorious as northern snowmelt. Obara watched from above, arms crossed. "Good," she said when he returned sopping. "Wolf nose serves you well." That night, dancers in Uller colors spun around firelight. Rickon sat on red sand, legs numb, watching their shadows leap. A girl near his age whirled past, anklets chiming. She smiled, and for a heartbeat Winterfell receded into story. He did not know her name, yet the warmth of the flames felt like friendship. Obara's trials grew harder, sparring atop sandstone ridges, running barefoot across scalding flats at midday, learning the bite of a whip's kiss across forearms to teach him to parry its crack. Bruises painted him from neck to heel. Yet each dawn he rose before Obara called, practiced footwork by starlight, whispering the names of the seven, not the gods of the north, but the stars he had named himself. The sword, the wolf's eye, the maiden's flame, while sand trickled between his toes. He imagined his mother's voice urging him. Fear cuts deeper than steel. When they returned to Sunspear, Nymeria greeted them with an arch smile. Our wolf walks like a lizard now. Tiny clasped his calloused hands, and his palms are sanded smooth as polished shell. Soon no blade shall slip. Nah. Prince Doran summoned Rickon to the water garden. Fountains glimmered turquoise. Orange trees perfumed the air. The prince's daughter Arianne lounged on a couch, dark eyes assessing him. Elegant lords toasted his health with sweet chilled wine. Rickon, dizzy from heat and sudden attention, quoted Davos' script. I am honored to dwell beneath your roof, your highness. The salt and sun of Dorne warm me. Arianne laughed, a sound like wind chimes. Do they? You look half-baked. Prince Doran tapped the armrest. Dorne is a forge. Steel tempered too swiftly may shatter. Cooled in wine, it softens. Obara, temper him. Tyneen, cool him. Nymeria, hone him. He regarded Rickon with gentle gravity. One day you will choose. Be wolf, sand snake, both or something new. Seasons turned. Letters arrived from the north rarely, each carried by ships that braved war-torn seas. Some months they brought tidings of conflict, banners raised and cut down, kings crowned, kings slain. Other months brought silence heavier than any news. One raven bore a single line. Winterfell burned. Rickon stared until the ink blurred. He wept that night, alone in a dark hall thick with incense. Tyene found him. Instead of words, she offered a tiny vial. Tears of less, she whispered. Take 2 drops. Sleep without dreams. Rickon set the vial aside. I need dreams. They're all I have. She kissed his forehead. Then dream fiercely. He dreamed of a black-furred wolf with eyes of green fire carving paths through snow to stand beneath a tangerine sun. The wolf howled. Its breath became sand swirling into the shape of a spear. When morning came, Rickon carved the image into driftwood, set it above his bed, a wolf entwined with spear and serpent. One sticky dusk, Nymeria ushered him to an abandoned courtyard. Lesson beyond steel, she murmured. Words. She placed a quill in his hand. Unrolled parchment. Ink can slay slower than poison, yet more surely. She had him copy passages from Dornish scrolls, laws of inheritance, pacts sworn in fire and salt. She tested him on sigils, bloodlines, ancient grudges. Know your enemy's ancestors. Ofttimes they weigh on him more than daggers in the dark. Rickon's letters grew deft, his thoughts sharper. When he erred, Nymeria did not slash him with a staff. Instead, she rapped his knuckles with the quill's nib. Ink, she reminded, cuts deepest on skin unseen. Obara scoffed when she saw the inky-stained fingers. Quills won't save him when blades gleam. They'll choose his battles, replied Nymeria, eyes half-lidded. Maybe even win them before the first blade leaves its sheath. Rickon thought of Robb, young king in the north, undone not by spear, but by guest right betrayed. Ink on a wedding contract sharper than any sword. Years stretched until Rickon stood on the brink of 12. The wolf cub had grown wiry, bronzed by sun. Eyes iced gray yet flecked gold from Dornish light. Shaggy Dog's collar no longer dangled around his neck. He'd reforged it under the palace smith's guidance into 2 slender rings bound by a strip of leather he wore at the wrist. A memory repurposed into promise. Late one night, Davos presented a sealed scroll. The wax bore the dire wolf sigil. Rickon broke it, pulse hammering. Words danced, stark and spare. King Stannis holds Storm's End. The north bleeds. Winter yet comes. Your brother Jon holds the wall. Hope remains. There. Hope. Rickon tasted the word like new wine. Sharp. Sweet. Dangerous. He pictured John atop the wall of ice, wind-whipping black cloak. A gulf of leagues yawned between them, bared steel and blackfire rumor. Yet blood stretched farther than leagues. Obara found him pacing the water garden before dawn. "You're restless," she observed. "My kin need me. And what can a half-grown wolf do besides howl at a moon that does not hear?" she challenged. Rickon met her gaze, felt the desert in his bones. "Wolves hunt in packs. I have a new pack now." Obara's smile was a cut vein. "Then let us see if your pack hunts." She fetched a sand-colored cloak, embroidered with a green-eyed wolf, entwined with a spear. "Wear this. Ride with us to the Forgotten Pass. Raiders from the princes pass poach caravans. We hunt them." Nymeria strapped blades along his belt. Obsidian, bronze, steel dotted. Tyene slipped 2 vials into hidden pockets, kissed his cheek. "A gift. One merciful, one monstrous. Choose wisely." They rode under a sky washed clean by summer storm. Sand hissed beneath hooves. By noon, the desert birthed a heat mirage army, marching at the horizon. Rickon's pulse danced to the rhythm of hoofbeats. The world tasted of copper again. Memory of that first arrival churned within him, now fused to something fiercer. When raiders struck, they came like locusts, lean horses, curved blades flashing. Obara's spear whirled smoke-a-quick. Nymeria's daggers glinted. Tyna's smile burned brighter than the sun. Rickon, astride a lean sand mare, loosed a dagger into a rider's throat. Blood sprayed like burst pomegranate. Pain blossomed in his side where another blade grazed, yet he turned the mare, struck with staff butt, felt bones splinter. The battle was noise and dust and clanging metal. Somewhere distant, he noted his own voice, a howl ripped raw that rose above clamor. He rode its echo. Later, when silence fell like ash, Rickon knelt amid trampled sand. Breath sought his chest, sticky with blood, some his, some not. Obara pressed a water skin to his lips. "You did not blink." Nymeria wiped dust from his brow. "A wolf, hunt a snake. Perhaps Dorn can forge miracles." Tyne checked his wound, applied salve smelling of cloves. No poison needed. Steel did enough. Rickon glanced at the fallen raiders. They wore rags, sun-cracked skin stretched over hunger-thin bones. The reality of death settled heavy. He wondered if any had brothers waiting north of these sands. He whispered a prayer to the old gods, to the new, to spirits of sand and snow alike. That night, beneath a hunter's moon, the sand snakes crowned him with a circlet of woven grass. "Blood on sand seals brotherhood," said Obara. "You are ours now." Rickon touched the circlet. A wolf, a snake, both and neither. Something new indeed. Back in Sunspear, Prince Doran listened as Obara recounted the battle. His tired eyes brightened. The North's loss becomes Dorn's gain. He steepled swollen fingers. Yet no gain without price. Word of your deeds will reach ears far beyond our walls. The Iron Throne may view a stark trained by sand snakes as threat. Rickon lifted his chin. "Let them." Doran's smile was sorrowful. "Youth is brave. We shall temper bravery with patience. War is won as water wears stone. Slow, inevitable. You will learn that in time." "Mannen?" Time, Rickon thought, measuring years between Winterfell's ashes and now. Time had already wrought alchemy on him, turned grief to steel, fear to serpent's venom, memory to guiding star. He bowed. "I will learn what you teach, my prince." Months later, word arrived of weddings and betrayals at the Twins, of a northern king's death beneath crossbow quarrels. Rickon read each line twice, thrice, until tears blurred ink. Robb gone. Mother gone. Winterfell's banners lost in darkness. He fled to the roof walk above Sunspear's highest terrace. Wind screamed, carrying heat of high noon. He howled, a raw sound. Half wolf, half boy Darai. Footsteps followed. Obara's shadow fell across him. Pain is your teacher still, she said. He shook, fists clenched. I have no pack. You have us. She placed her spear before him. Break it if you would shed us. Rickon stared. The spear's shaft bore carved snakes entwined. He grasped it. Cedarwood fragrant, unyielding. Tears blurred his vision again. He could not break it. Obara nodded, satisfied. Then stand. The world wields grief like cudgel. We will teach you to wield it sharper. Monsieur, will it ever end? No. Her voice was sky-cold. But you may end those who cause it. 17 days later, riders arrived from Gaston Grey. Among them a grizzled watcher in black and gray, a sworn brother of the Night's Watch. He bore a letter for Prince Doran, sealed with black wax, and the crowned stag of King Stannis atop the Deerwolf of Stark. Jon's name whispered within its folds. Prince Doran summoned Rickon. He read aloud. Invitation to treat with Stannis at Storm's End. Talk of alliances forged in winter's shadow. Jon Snow, named Lord Commander. Promising amnesty for princes who aid the realm against coming darkness. Rickon's heart pounded. Jon alive, wielding duty like sword. Snow and sand, wolves and snakes. Prince Doran's gaze measured him. The wheel turns, young wolf. Perhaps it is time your road bends north again. Obara's spear clacked against marble. He is not yet forged. Nymeria countered softly. Steel remains in fire too long may melt. Tiny's fingers brushed Rickon's sleeve. Choices shape poison into cure. Rickon inhaled sea scent thick with citrus. He remembered white harbor gulls crying. Remembered dunes shimmering. Two worlds in his chest, colliding. I will go, he said, voice iron. But I will not go alone. Prince Doran smiled. Slow as sunrise. No, a pack travels together. And so began preparations. Camels laden with fruit and water kegs. Ravens dispatched across seas. Steel honed beneath red lanterns. Rickon stood before a mirror of polished bronze and saw a stranger. Scar-raking cheek, sun-gold hair streaking through coal black. Eyes caught between wolf winter and serpent fire. He donned a jerkin the color of drying blood, embroidered with green-hide wolf and coiled copper snake. At his belt hung twin daggers Nymeria gifted. Across his back, a short spear of cedar carved by Obara. In hidden lining of boot lay Tiny's vials, Mercy and Monster. Davos adjusted the wolf-hand spear cloak on his shoulders. The Onetime smuggler's smile was pride-extrained. Your father would know his son, though he'd blinked twice. Rickon's throat tightened. Do you think he still lives? I think Starks are hard to kill. Davos' tone carried old salt storms. And those that live reckon with ghosts, like us. The boy. No. The young man nodded. Outside, bells chimed departure. The sun climbed. He stepped into the courtyard where Obara waited astride a red stallion, spear upright. Nymeria lounged on a sandcat's tawny hide draped over her palfrey. Tiny smiled from a pale mare, hair bound with golden thread. Davos mounted sturdy Garen. Prince Doran, seated in wheeled chair, raised hand in blessing. Ride swift, said the prince. Winter comes even to Dorne. Rickon saluted with spear. Winter rides with wolves. As they departed Sunspear, sand hissed beneath hooves, and Rickon glanced back once. Turrets dwindled. Sunlight speared through battlements like memory piercing heart. Ahead stretched road to Storm's End, then beyond. The Wall, maybe Winterfell's ruins, maybe resurrection. Wind tasted of both salt and snow. He straightened, felt the weight of leather wristband, felt ghosts at his heels. Shaggy Dog, Rob, Caitlin, and living beside him. Snakes, smuggler, silent desert. The world indeed was larger than he imagined. And he, no longer small within it. They reached the orange groves of Lemonwood after 3 days. Scents of blossom and brine coaxing thoughts of home and hunger. Nights by campfire spun tales. Davos spoke of the Blackwater's green fire. Nymeria recounted lore of Nymeria of Royne. Obara told no tales. She sparred with shadows. Tiny brewed tea that tasted of cherries laced with secrets. Rickon listened. learned. One moonless eve, Taine handed him 2 pouches. Seeds of the Strangler in the black, sesame in the white. Confuse them. She closed his fist around them. Knowledge is choice. He hid them in a hollow pommel. Choice for later. As storms and strum-shaped towers rose slatta gray against storm clouds, thunder growled welcome. Rain slicked cloaks, yet Rickon felt heat of Dorn beneath skin. He wore it like second armor. Outside the gatehouse, banners cracked in wind. The fiery heart of Stannis, the dire wolf of Stark quartered. Torches guttered, gulls shrieked. Sir Davos dismounted first, hailed a guard, who recognized his voice. Gates opened with shrill groan. They passed through cavernous archway into a courtyard, where black-cloaked Night's Watch envoys waited beside Queen's men bearing Red God sigils. Among them stood a tall young man wrapped in heavy black. His eyes, gray as storm seas, widened. "Rickon," he breathed. Rickon slid from saddle, feet splashing in puddles. He had pictured this moment 1,000 nights, wolf running home. Yet, standing before Jon Snow now felt like sand shifting underfoot. Jon's hair was longer, streaked with snow. His face carried lines, winter-etched. The wall had carved Commander from Bastard. Rickon stepped forward. "Brother." His voice cracked. "Am I still your kin?" Jon's embrace answered. Rain mingled with tears. Over Jon's shoulder Rickon glimpsed Davos smiling. Obara's stoic nod, Nymeria's sly tilt, Taine's approving glow. Pack, old and new, converged. Thunder cracked overhead like applause of gods. Inside Storm's End's great hall, fires roared in hearths built for hurricanes. Stannis Baratheon stood before the long table, jaw set as if carved from ship's prow. Red Lady Melisandre glided at his side, red silk flickering like living flame. Rickon stark, Stannis intoned, eyes flinty. "Last son of Eddard Stark." "Not last," Jon corrected quietly. Stannis studied the brothers, then the sand snakes. Disapproval flitted across stern face. "Dorne breeds vipers. Vipers kill rats," Obara said. Silence crackled. Stannis' lip twitched. Humor or contempt? Indistinguishable. "The realm teeters on edge of night," he said. "We stand together, or we fall." Rickon met Red Woman's gaze. Her eyes like coals. He felt heat surge, then recede, as if she probed soul and found serpent coiled with wolf. Melisandre spoke. "The boy carries shadows of 2 worlds, fire and ice entwined." She smiled faintly. "When flame meets snow, iron sings." Rickon did not understand, yet her words vibrated bone. Stannis unfurled a map. The wall, the gift, Winterfell, white blankness above. "The true war lies north. I march, lords must follow." He pointed to Rickon. "Northern blood rallies banners. Direwolf still howls. I name you Prince of Winterfell, ward until castle reclaimed." Jon stiffened. "The Night's Watch." "I know your vows," Stannis snapped. "Yet vows break when world ends." Rickon's head spun. "Prince, Tower." Winterfell stones cold and shattered. Could he stand amidst ruins, call bannermen, once loyal to Robb, now broken by fear? Could a sand-scorched wolf summon snow? Obara whispered, steel-tempered. Nymeria, ink sharpened. Tyane, poison chosen. Davos, pain carried. Jon, brother? Rickon breathed desert and snow. He touched wristband forged from Shaggy Dog's collar. "I will reclaim my home," he said, voice steady. "But I will not do it alone." He looked to Obara, Nymeria, Tyene, Davos, Jon. "My pack stands with me." Stannis nodded once. "Then we ride at dawn." Night settled heavy. Rickon wandered battlements, rain drumming on stone. Lightning flashed, illuminating sea maelstrom below. He recalled first sight of Sunspear from deck of Cogbreaker. Salt, sun, fear. He had crossed half the world, forged anew. Now he stood between storms, one of waves, one of winter. Footsteps approached. Jon, cloak billowing. "I feared you dead," Jon said, voice rough. Then I heard whispers of a wolf among vipers. Rickon smiled, unsure if tears mingled with rain. I feared you a ghost upon ice. John clapped his shoulder. Ghosts don't bleed. You do. He indicated bandages beneath jerkin. I heard of your battle in the sand. Rickon shrugged. Pain teaches. Jon's gaze softened. Tell me of Dorn. Tell me of the wall. Rickon countered. They traded tales until rain ceased, until dawn's first gray-painted horizon. They spoke of lost fathers, murdered brothers, future wars, of nights when memory was only warmth. When words waned, Rickon drew the twin rings from wrist. Jon traced them, recognizing Shaggy Dog's iron. I thought I buried child's things, Rickon whispered. Jon shook head. Child becomes man, but roots remain. Rickon fastened the wristband again. Somewhere below, horns sounded readiness. Storm's End's courtyard churned with horses, banners of stag, snake, wolf. He glanced at Jon. Are you with me? Until the curtain falls, Jon said. They descended stairs side by side. And so the pack rode. Wolf and snakes, knight and commander, king and red priestess, banners whipping in gale. Road north awaited. Through rain-black fields, riverlands scarred by betrayal, neck swamps thick with secrets. Winter's breath hovered beyond. Rickon felt his heart beat. Not cub's timid flutter, but predator's drum. The boy who left Winterfell returned tempered by desert's fire, armed with spear and ink and choice. The world's enormity no longer dwarfed him. He carried its breadth within skin tanned by 2 suns. He urged his horse forward, Shaggy Dog's howl echoing inside skull. Ahead lay ghosts to conquer, home to reclaim, a night as long as life to outlast. But he did not ride alone. Above them, clouds roiled like wolves chasing serpents across sky, or serpents swallowing wolves. Hard to tell where one ended and the other began. In that mingling, Rickon found his sigil, his self, his story still unwritten. And the road stretched on. Lightning spidered across the sky as they rode from Storm's End, the air swollen with brewing tempests. Their columns stretched like a dark river along the King's Road. Baratheon men in battered plate, Florin spearmen, Davos handful of cell sails, black-cloaked rangers sworn to Jon, and Rickon's unlikely honor guard. 3 sand snakes whose desert silks fluttered beneath borrowed storm cloaks. The rain came hard, sheeting sideways, yet Oberra barked at the wind, and Nymeria sang Rhoynar verses, and Tyne laughed when thunder cracked so close it rattled teeth. Rickon rode between them, sodden and half-blinded by water, but inside burned a furnace that no southern deluge could quench. After 2 days the storm spent itself. The sky cleared to flint gray, crows wheeling above churned mud. They passed hamlets hollowed by war, doors hanging, hearths cold, orchards unpicked. Stannis permitted no looting. He posted guards to ensure it. Still, gaunt eyes watched from thatched dark doorways as the army plodded north, and once a starving child bolted into the ranks, seizing at a crust of bread before a soldier could lift his spear. Tyne slipped from saddle and pressed an entire loaf into tiny hands, winking when the captain scowled. On the 6th night, they camped beside the Wendwater. Fires flickered against damp air, and tents sagged beneath dew. Rickon knelt at the riverbank, washing grime from his bracers. The ripples blurred his reflection. Wolf's gray gaze, Dorn's sun on skin, the thin scar where a raider's blade had grazed cheekbone. Behind him, Davos crouched, tossing pebbles that hopped thrice before sinking. Stannis pushes hard, Davos said. He means to make the trident by first frost. Rickon squeezed water from his hair. Can we? Not without losing men to sickness. Davos skimmed another stone. But telling Stannis slow is like telling the tide stop. Then we adapt. Rickon stood, buckling knife belt. Adaptation had become as natural as breath. Wool to linen, snow to sand, staff to spear. Davos' smile bent wistful. That's Sunspear talking. It's Winterfell talking through Sunspear's tongue, Rickon corrected. Davos chuckled softly. Hoots rose from upstream. Nymeria, and a pair of Night's Watch archers sparring with bows, loosing shafts at driftwood. Obara drilled footwork near the picket line, her staff whirling through torch glow. Tiny sat cross-legged beneath an elm, grinding leaves with pestle, humming Dornish lullaby. Rickon felt a pang, memories of Bran's clumsy archery, Arya's stealthy needle thrusts. But the ache no longer crippled. It tempered. Stannis' command tent dominated the camp center, canvas dark as morning cloth. Rickon entered at Devos nod. Inside, candlelight pooled over maps weighted by daggers. The king stood rigid, Melisandre at his shoulder, her red hair gleaming like fresh blood. "Our outriders report Lannister levies mustering at Hayford," Stannis said without preamble. His gaze swept those gathered. Sir Richard Horpe, Sir Godry the Giant Slayer, Lord Celestin of Massey's Hook, and Rickon Stark, newly minted lordling in all but title. "We march at dawn to break them before they combine with Frey forces crossing the headwaters." Sir Godry thumped mailed fist to chest. "Aye, your grace." Rickon studied the map. Storm's End to Hayford spanned dense forests and sodden valleys. Supplies dwindled, horses flagged. He heard Nymeria's counsel in memory. No terrain, bloodlines, grudges. The Lannisters' commander would be Sir Davin, a blunt sword, quick to charge but slow to foresee ambush. Rickon cleared his throat. "Your grace, the Kingswood paths flood after these storms. Heavy wagons will mire. If we angle northwest first, to Stonehelm's old causeway." Stannis' glare could scorch oak. "Caution reeks of cowardice, boy." Before Rickon could answer, Melisandre's voice slid between them. "The flames show forks in the road. One path fetters steel and mud, the other stains iron with lion's blood. Yet both may lead to victory." Stannis' mouth tightened. The boy speaks sense, or the fires deceive. Rickon met Stannis' gaze without blinking. "The causeway is higher ground. We lose a day, but reach Hayford with carts intact and men less spent. Better to arrive strong tomorrow than broken today." Silence beat like a heart. Davos shifted, ready to intercede, but Stannis exhaled a long breath. "Very well," the king said. "We march by the causeway." He jabbed dagger into map. "Pray your counsel proves sound, young wolf, or you'll answer with more than words." Rickon inclined head, pulse thudding. When he stepped outside, rain had resumed, gentler now, like the sky exhaling fatigue. Nymeria lounged against a tree, droplets beating on her curls. "You tasted a king's temper and kept your tongue. Hard to bite when it's already half scarred," Rickon replied. Tyne emerged from shadows, sliding a vial into his palm. "Camphor and willow. For headaches, kings give many." He tucked it away. Thunder murmured distant. Obara joined them, twirling staff restlessly. "If Stannis bleeds us dry before we meet Bolton Blades, Sunspear will have words." "Words first," Rickon said. "Then steel." Obara's grin flashed. "Now you sound Dornish." That night, under canvas rattling with rain, Rickon dreamed. He stalked a forest of silver-leafed birch. Shaggy Dog looked ahead, for a rippling black to gold. From shadows slithered a massive serpent. Scales obsidian, eyes emerald. It coiled around the wolf, not to crush but to merge. Serpent became pattern on the wolf's pelt. Wolf's howl fused with serpent's hiss, until a new sound rose, spear-sharp, resonant as bronze bell. Rickon woke before dawn, breath misting, the echo lingering. They marched at first light. The causeway offered footing firm enough that wagons rolled steady. By dusk 2 days later, scouts sighted Lannister banners hugging Hayford's hills. Stannis arrayed forces along a low ridge fringed by soggy wheat. The Lannisters, outnumbered 2-1, formed shield wall before a shallow stream. Hard ground was scarce. Hooves churned banks into chocolate muck. Stannis ordered immediate assault. Horpe's cavalry thundered down the slope, but bogged where stream overflowed. Lannister crossbows clicked. Horses screamed. Obara cursed. Rickon saw disaster unfolding. Stannis' impatience made trap of mud. He spurred through chaos toward the king. "Pull them back to the ridge." Stannis' jaw worked. "Hold." A flaming arrow arced overhead. Melisandre atop a rise, torch in hand. Fire leapt across rain-slick reed beds, igniting pitch Horpa's men had poured nights prior along stream banks. A contingency Davos proposed. Steam exploded, haze blinded crossbowmen. Within minutes, mud turned boiling cauldron. Lannister front ranks broke, recoiling from scalding water. Stannis advanced infantry in tight columns along drear flanks. The giant slayer led charge, hammer shattering shield rim. Baratheon men roared. Rickon guided Jones' rangers and a dozen Dornish spears through willow thicket to left. There, ground rose firm beneath oak roots. They burst from cover, plunging into Lannister flank. Rickon's cedar spear thrust withdrew, thrust again, memory of Obara's drills guiding arms. The cedar cracked a shield boss. He wheeled, slashed with Nymeria's dagger. A knight in crimson toppled. Rain hissed on blades, washing blood into rivulets. Night swallowed sun. When the last lion banner lowered, thunder still grumbled, echo to dying shouts. Stannis strode the field, face smeared red. Break their wagons, seize stores. He spied Rickon, nodded curtly. Approval. Sparse but solid. Losses proved lighter than feared. Horp's cavalry counted dead horses more than men. Rangers suffered 3 gone. Among them, 1 Dornish spear lay lifeless, arrow through eye. Nymeria knelt by body, murmured prayer in Rhoynar tongue. Rickon crouched, pressing hand to her shoulder. She did not weep. That same night, Melisandre's fires crackled high. Rickon felt drawn, towing line where warmth licked shins. Flames painted visions, a tower crowned with flayed men banners, under bleeding aurora. A boy in wolf mask cleaving chains. Snow swirling over sandstone courtyard as desert roses bloomed crimson. He swayed. The red woman's voice slid into ear, soft as midnight. Blood and heat war within you, Prince of Ash and Frost. Steel yourself, for darker fires await. He met her eyes, found neither malice nor mercy, only hunger for revelation. He stepped back, cold despite blaze. The army pressed on, leaving scorched Hayford to bury its dead. In the Crownlands, they skirted villages where small folk bowed to Stannis, a king who, though stern, demanded taxes fairly and punished pillage harshly. Yet whispers followed of Lannister gold hiring sellswards west of Maidenpool. Supplies thinned. Jones' ravens brought word of Bolton fortifying Moat Cailin with ironborn reavers. The neck-choked passage to the north. At Prince's Gate, Stannis convened council beneath a stand of ancient elms. Autumn's first rust leaves whirled. Jon spread a rag map. We can't storm Moat Cailin head-on. Its towers command the causeway, and swamps drink cavalry. My rangers know hidden paths, but not for full host. None? Davos suggested feint to draw Ironborn south, while a smaller force slipped through bog trails. Stannis looked to Rickon. The men of the north want rise for me, but they may for you. Reach Barrowton, gather banners, strike Bolton from behind. Jon added, I can escort with 200 brothers. The watch remains neutral, yet if the wall falls, nothing holds the night at bay. Rickon's gut churned, split from sand snakes, from King's greater strength. But he saw logic. A lone spear can pass where army cannot. He met Obara's eyes. She inclined head, permission or challenge he could not tell. I will go, Rickon said. With snakes, rangers, Davos. Enough to move swift, not burden swamps. Stannis approved. Take the Blackbird Road to Crackclaw Point, then cut to the neck. Time matters. That evening, as main host marched west to Fane, Rickon's company peeled northeast. The column numbered fewer than 400. Jones picked rangers, 2 Dromans of Stormlander foot, 30 Baratheon engineers for siege craft, and the trio of sand snakes with their personal retainers. Lean desert horsemen oddly at home in damp pine gloom. They rode long hours, resting little, cutting through forest paths where stink mushrooms burst under hooves. In the silent dark, Jon walked ghost, the great white direwolf pacing beside him, eyes lambent. Rickon watched wolf and master move like twin shades. Ghost paused, sniffing Rickon's calf. The pup inside Rickon's memory stirred. Shaggy dog's echo. He reached, tentative. Ghost accepted his scratch behind ear. A tremor of grief and comfort mingled, raw but bearable. Crossing Crack Claw Point, they clashed with Weeping Town bandits. Obara's spear guttered 4 in first rush. Tiny tossed a silver dart that hissed past Rickon's cheek to strike a bowman reaching for him. Nymeria caught 3 more with thrown blades. Joan's rangers loosed arrows black-fletched, Davos hewed with cutlass. The fight ended swift. Prisoners, starved farmers turned outlaw, were spared, given food and release. Mercy, Tiny whispered, is poison sweet or bitter depending on dose. At a tidal ford near Salt Pans, Rickon lingered while men pushed wagons through knee-high water. He stooped, watching eels dart. Nymeria joined, silent for a while. Then murmured, Stannis used you, wolf pelt to raise north, do not let him flay it. I serve the realm, Rickon said. The realm is an illusion men kill to imagine. Her smile was faint. Serve the living, not the lines on maps. Dawn broke pale. Inland, the air cooled. They entered the riverlands where willow branches trailed fog. Ravens croaked overhead. Burned fields bore witness to Frey's retribution. At a crossroads, gallows rotted, carcasses long picked by crows. Jon's jaw tightened. Near Maidenpool, they met Lord Tito's Blackwood's outriders. The ravens hailed Rickon, Prince of Winterfell, offering escort. Lord Blackwood, gray-bearded and hawk-eyed, welcomed them into tent strewn with weirwood leaves collected on pilgrimage. He bent knee to Rickon. For Ned, for Robb, for honor. His levies, archers famed for yew longbows, swelled Rickon's host by 300. With Blackwood guidance, they skirted Twins patrols, crossing Green Fork at night in flat-bottomed skiffs, muffled with wool. Obara whispered Dornish lullabies to calm frightened horses. They emerged into northern air, crisp as apple skin. The scent of pine and peatlands stirred childhood memories so fierce Rickon nearly wept. But the neck awaited. Fen swallowed hooves, leeches clung to calves. Crannogman trackers met them in reed canoes, gray men with frog spears, loyal to Howland Reed. They ferried small parties along hidden channels. Jon led rangers over sphagnum mats that quivered like living things. One evening Rickon shared eel stew with Mira Reed, who spoke of Bran, alive, gone beyond wall. Rickon's heart soared. A seed of Stark lineage still sprouted in unknown frost. At last, they sighted Moat Caelan's broken towers looming from fen mists. Ironborn banners snapped, black kraken on gold. Jon's glass candles signaled. That night, Crannogman crept through water, blowing darts laced with manticore venom Tiny had distilled. Silent as moon, guards slumped. At dawn, Rickon led charge through breached postern. Obara's spear struck first blow. Nymeria's blades flashed. Tiny's poison seeded chaos in cistern. Rangers raised Direwolf banner high atop watchtower, while engineers swung the portcullis. Ironborn captain knelt blood-splattered before Rickon die. We yield. His voice trembled. Rickon ordered safe passage to ships at Saltspear, in exchange for keys and promise to cease reaving northern shores. The captain spat, but conceded. Mercy again, harder than murder. With the moat cleared, ravens flew. Northern houses stirred like bears from hibernation. Lady Mage Mormont marched 40 spears across Bear Island Strait. Galbart Glover arrived with archers. House Manderley answered next. 500 armored men under Sir Marlon Manderley. Pale banners stitched swift at White Harbor when word reached them of a Stark alive. They assembled at Barroton, beneath burial mounds older than kingdoms. Torches ringed a great barrow where ancient kings lay with iron swords. Rickon stood upon stone dais. The gathered lords gazed. Mormont, Glover, Tallhart, Serwyn, even Lady Barbary Dustin arrived with dusty riders, eyes sharp as flensing knives. Davos spoke first, recounting Ned's honor, Robb's fall, Ramsay's atrocities. Jon described threat in north, dead things, need for unity. Then Rickon, voice steady, I have been a cub lost in desert, forged by snake and spear. But ice remains within. Winter comes. I ask not oaths to me, but to the north. Rise with me, drive flayed men from our lands, guard our children from the night beyond the wall. Silence beat, broken by roar of wind across mounds. Then Lady Mormont advanced, small, yet fierce. She knelt. Bear Island knows no king but the king in the north whose name is Stark. One by one, others knelt. Even Barbary Dustin, lips thin, dipped head. Rickon felt tears burn yet held them. Later, inside Barrow Hall, Nymeria poured wine for Lady Dustin, while Obara sharpened spears. Tyene danced fingers across cithar string, music winding between stone pillars. Rickon conferred with John and Manderley, march routes, supply caches, Bolton numbers. Snowflakes drifted outside. First of season. John glanced skyward. Eerily. Winter rides fast, Rickon murmured. He remembered Doran's warning. Water wears stone. Slow but sure. Now winter would wear armies. They struck for Winterfell before solstice. 1,200 strong, plus Crannog scouts. Along the King's Road frost-rimed trees bowed overhead, limbs creaking like timbers at sea. Ghost padded ahead, pale wraith, in swirling snow. At dusk, they reached a village flayed and burned by Ramsay. Rickon walked charred remains. Fists knotted. Here ghosts clamored loud. Tyene touched his arm. Pain, remember? He did. Scouts, reported Bolton host, assembled on icy plain before castle. Pink banners mottled crimson under gray sky. Flayed man's sigils flapped above spearmen in red leathers, hounds barking. Rickon's blood iced at sight of snarling beast pens, Ramsay's terror. But Stannis' main host had not yet arrived. Rickon must take field with what he had. Night before battle, John found Rickon alone in Godswood Grove. Shriveled weirwood beneath snow. They prayed. John to old gods, Rickon murmuring wolf and serpent and desert and snow, all gods he'd met. They embraced. Whatever dawn brings, John said, we face it. Dawn spilled pallid light across plain. Snow blew sideways in stinging gusts. Rickon rode four-line on sable courser. Obara on right flank with Mormont spears. Nymeria commanded archers in woodline. Tyene hovered behind medics, vials ready. John led center with rangers. Bolton drums rolled. Ramsay himself rode White Stallion, smile hungry. At signal, his archers loosed black shaft arrows. Rickon raised shield, felt thuds jar arm. Snow churned. He signaled return. Nymeria's flights arced graceful, felling rows. Ramsay unleashed hounds. 50 rage-starved beasts thundered. Rickon waited until meters away, then barked command. Manderley shield wall knelt, spears bristling. Hounds impaled, yelps piercing. Ghost leapt, tearing Alpha's throat. Bolton cavalry charged next. Rickon's engineers, hidden in ditches, yanked ropes. Stakes rose spiked with Dornish scorpion barbs. Tyene had coated in manticore venom. Horses screamed, crashing. Chaos rippled. Obara's flank drove wedge, her spear a streak. She toppled riders, seized banner staff, snapped pink silk in two. Joan's rangers advanced under arrow cover, axes biting. Ramsay howled orders, eyes wild. He spurred forward, aiming directly at Rickon. The world narrowed. Ramsay's grin gleamed. Rickon urged courser. They met amid melee. Ramsay swung sword. Rickon parried with cedar shaft, wood splintering. He rolled from saddle as blade hacked. Snow puffed. Ramsay dismounted, stalked with butcher's knife. All your kin die in my yard, Ramsay hissed. I'll mount your skull over dog kennels. He feinted, slashed. Rickon dodged, but blade nicked arm, heat blooming. Pain teacher. Rickon pivoted as Obara taught. Angle, ferocity. He drew Nymeria's dagger from belt, the twin shaggy dog rings glinting. Ramsay lunged, overextended. Rickon sidestepped, sliding Tyene's vial into free hand. Monster poison, amber thick. In one motion he smashed vial against Ramsay's cheek. Glass shattered, fluid seeping into cut. Ramsay recoiled, howling. Rickon buried dagger in his thigh, then wrenched knife upward, severing artery. Ramsay staggered, blood spurting black on snow, face blistering where poison burned. Eyes bulged, laughter died on froth. But victory monster demanded price. Ramsay hurled knife. It sliced Rickon's ribs. He gasped, warmth flooding. Obara barreled through fray, catching Rickon as he fell. Ramsay collapsed yards away, thrashing, shrieking, until silence. Bolton ranks, seeing Lord fall, faltered. Mormont roar surged, flayed men banners toppled. Hours later, Winterfell's gate swung inward. Servants unbarred when Pink Hill's standard fell. Direwolf banner rose again, gray upon white field, flapping against sky that suddenly felt less heavy. Inside hall, snow drifted through splintered roof, dusting long cold hearth. Rickon limped across threshold, Obara's shoulder under arm, tiny knee staunching wound with cloth. Nymeria and Jon followed. He knelt where once his father dispensed justice. He pressed palm to floor, felt stones chill. Tears slid, mingling with snowmelt. "Winterfell is yours again," Jon whispered. "No," Rickon said thickly. "Ours." Outside, horns heralded new arrivals. Stannis banners at last, cresting ridge exactly when needed least. Politics would resume, but for Heartbeat, silence reigned. Rickon closed weary eyes, sensing ghosts gather. Eddard, Catelyn, Robb, Shaggy Dog. Their murmurs blended with hiss of sand, crash of sea, howl of wind. When he rose, he felt neither child nor stranger, but union of paths. Wolf of northern snow, snake of southern sun, spear tempered in storm, ink sharpened by grief, poison measured by mercy. The hall awaited rebuilding, the realm mending. Night beyond wall still gathering dead. Yet hope, stubborn as desert bloom, rooted in cracks. He strode to dais, raised voice so echoes reached rafters. "We light the hearth anew. Let Winterfell burn bright enough that even Dorne may see its glow." In courtyard men cheered, a roar rolling like surf against castle walls. Flames kindled in braziers. Through open gates, Rickon glimpsed horizon. Dawn pink-limbed gray skies. First light after endless storm. He thought of Sunspear's heat, of cold crypt shadows, of serpents circling wolves beneath twin suns of dream. Future remained unwritten, but he held quill now, and dagger, and spear. And at his wrist, 2 rings forged from loss bound by leather of remembrance. The pack had come home. Gaindhao. Snow fell in lazy spirals that evening, soft enough to hush the groans of shattered beams as carpenters pried blackened timbers from Winterfell's charred roofs. Smoke from the first rekindled hearths wove through the flakes, turning the courtyard haze a warm, smudged gray. Rickon moved among the workers, his arm bound tight where Ramsay's knife had found flesh, but the pain faded beneath the heartbeat of the castle. Axes ringing, sledges thumping, voices shouting orders atop the walls. Every blow of hammer on nail sounded a promise. Stone remembered its lord. Jon oversaw the gate repairs, ghost pacing beside him. The direwolf's coat caught flakes until he seemed carved from moonlit marble. Nearby, Obara sparred 2 Mormont spearmen in a flurry of half-speed thrusts, correcting their footwork with curt taps of her staff. Tying boiled pine resin and beeswax, for pitch to seal leaky shingles, humming Dornish lullabies, while Nymeria drilled a trio of young Surin bowmen in the bailey, her hibiscus-red scarf snapping like a banner in the brisk wind. In the tower windows, glimmers of candles blossomed, survivors reclaiming rooms long vacant. Inside the great hall, Rickon found Davos on a scaffold, supervising masons as they reset a cracked lintel. It was the same entry Ned Stark had crossed each morn to hold court. Davos' gloved stump hovered protectively near the stone as he guided it into place. "Good stone this," he muttered, glancing at Rickon's approaching shadow. "Cut from the Rill's quarry 1,000 years back, built to outlast kings and folly alike." He ran a finger along a frost-white vein in the granite. "But even good stone needs mending from time to time." "Like kingdoms," Rickon said. His breath misted. "How many casks of pitch left?" "Enough for 2 nights of torches." Davos wiped dust from cheek. After that we'll burn dung in prayers. We'll make do. Rickon motioned to a gaggle of children huddled near the far hearth, distributing soup. The small folk, any numbers? Fewer than 500 inside the walls, Davos replied. More trickling in since word spread, most half-starved, all afraid. But they bring stories. Bolton outrunners still prowling the King's Road, fray bands skulking near the Trident. He lowered his voice, and whispers that the dead walk in Hardhome again. Rickon's shoulders tightened beneath wolf and spear cloak. John will handle the wall. Our task is Winterfell. He gazed up to balcony where banners hung. Direwolf restored, but beside it, Stannis' fiery heart flared crimson gold. First we must fend off southern politics. As if summoned, Stannis entered, Melisandre at his elbow. Wet cloak dripping dark rivulets across new-swept floorboards. Snow beads hissed on his pauldrons. He surveyed the scaffolding, the cracked walls, the ragged banners. His mouth curved neither up nor down. You hold your father's keep as though born to command, he told Rickon. Yet the dust of usurpation still settles. Winterfell's seat is more than hearth and bricks. It is a crown. Oh. Rickon steadied his breathing. A crown that belongs to the north, not to scorpions crossing the neck with parchment claims. Stannis' blue eyes glinted. Your words bruise like fists. I did not march north for parchment. I marched for realm's salvation and for justice. Bolton treachery demanded redress. Who provides it but me? Davos cleared his throat, but Rickon raised a palm. You did, and the north stands grateful. But gratitude is not fealty. The Karstarks, Mormonts, and Glovers kneel to a Stark, not to your banner. Demderach. Melisandre's gaze shimmered. The Lord of Light rewards unity. Fires show two roads. Divide and perish, or bind and prevail. Unity forged in chains breaks at first frost, Rickon answered. Grant us self-rule, and the North will march behind you against the others in the long night. Stannis regarded him in silence so long that hammers arrested mid-swing overhead. Finally, his breath smoked. Hold your council tonight. At sunrise we speak terms. He turned, cloak swirling, Melisandre's red silk trailing. Davos gave Rickon a rueful look. You parley with a storm and expect sunshine. Better a storm than a blizzard, Rickon said. We'll see what dawn brings. Dusk dimmed to bone-deep blue when Jon and the Sand Snakes followed Rickon to the solar. Beyond the old maester's turret, one chamber, still sound enough for private words. A fresh peat fire gnawed at damp air. Mormont, Glover, Lady Meg, and the gaunt Lord Serwyn filed in, snow still in their hair. Lord Manderley, barrel-chested despite weeks in the saddle, ducked through the door, muttering about missing lamprey pie. Reed emissaries crouched cross-legged by the window, reed cloak hoods dripping. Rickon addressed them from the high-backed carven chair once laid for Robb. Stannis will demand fealty. If we refuse, he marches south. He'll leave us undermanned, the wall undersupplied, and Bolton remnants still lurking. If we accept, the North bends knee to a southern king again. Manderley's cheeks flushed ruddy. I bent knee once, and watched Frey's butcher my liege under guest right. I'll not bend to another Southron unless he drowns in my belly first. Lady Meg Mormont pounded fist to breast. Bear Island knows no king but Stark. Jon leaned forward, fingers steepled. Yet, the dead gather beyond the wall. We need Stannis' ships for Eastwatch. We need his steel. Borrow his ships, Nymeria sand purred from shadows, swirling a cup of warm, mulled wine. Marry them to our cause for a season. Ships sail whichever wind blows gold. Oberra snorted. Gold is scarce north of the neck. Blood is tender here. Tyene prodded the hearth with iron poker. Blood or gold, either purchases firewood. The question, who pays and in which currency? Rickon's mind spun. He studied each face. Loyal hearts, grim from years of betrayal. We concede no sovereignty, but we might treat with Stannis. Form a league, not a vassalage. Manderley stroked beard. A pact of equals. The Onion Knight whispered such in my hall once. Stannis will choke on the very idea. John's gaze shifted to Rickon's wristband, rings gleaming. If we present not a request, but a necessity, Winterfell as bulwark between wall and realm, then Stannis needs us as much as we need him. Lord Serwyn nodded slowly. We hold the bottleneck. He can't spare men to garrison Winterfell while he fights south. Let us hold it in stark name, under mutual defense. Denders. How to compel his assent? Glover asked. By offering what he values, Davos said from doorway. A legitimate claim recognized by northern lords, and 10,000 spears pledged against the White Walkers. The lords stand with Rickon, Mage declared. Bolton fear, Frey treachery. We've had enough of both. If Stannis needs swords, he can accept them on our terms. Rickon inhaled pine scent smoke. Very well. At dawn we offer alliance. Winterfell autonomous, dark banner over the north. Troops pledged to Stannis' campaign against the dead only. In return, he grants shipping and grain for the wall, and formal recognition of northern sovereignty. Muster. Obara's spear tattoo flexed on her forearm. And if he refuses, then we hold our own. Dorne taught me deserts yield water if you bleed enough, the north will endure. Nymeria raised her cup. To bleeding deserts and enduring snows. They drank mead thick with honey as wind keened outside. Dawn bled slate pink across brittle battlements when Rickon, cloak drawn tight, met Stannis in the courtyard. A ring of soldiers formed an audience. Baratheon knights bristling, northern lords silent but present, sand snakes lounging like desert cats on broken ramparts. Melisandre watched from the Godswood gate, red hair a coal spark in snow. Rickon laid the proposal plain. His voice carried, calm as frost. The North rules itself. In return, we march as allies in your war on winter. Supply your ships with lumber, and guard the neck, so no foe strikes your rear. Stannis' expression could crack iron. For 4 heartbeats he stood unmoving, snowflakes melting on his brow. Then he spoke with flint-edged restraint. I am rightful king of the 7 kingdoms. By law, by blood, by fortune's design. Would you fracture the realm as others approach? Rickon's fingers flexed at his side. A realm fractured already by Lannister greed, Frey betrayal, Bolton cruelty. Unity cannot be forced. It must be forged. Mater. Stannis' jaw nodded. You would have me accept secession as price of your spears. Not secession. Partnership. Rickon met the king's gaze. You remain king of the Andals and the Southron kingdoms. The north becomes your first ally, sworn to fight the night. When war is won, we keep our walls and ways, and you keep your throne unchallenged. A hush blanketed the yard. Davos' eye flicked between them. Obara's knuckles whitened on spear. Stannis' reply came low as distant thunder. A king who trades away dominion buys defeat. Or buys survival, Jon said, stepping forward. The wall will fall without men and food. Let the South keep its squabbles. Give us a chance to save them. Stannis faced him. You took vows. I keep them now. Jon answered. I seek only what the Watch needs. For a moment something in Stannis' gaze softened, not warmth, but recognition of unyielding duty. He turned to Melisandre. The red woman's eyes shimmered like rising embers. In the flames I see 2 kings, one crowned in steel, one in snow dada. Only together do they stand against shadows with teeth of ice. Stannis exhaled. Very well. He turned to Rickon. Autonomy until the dawn after the long night. Then we speak again. Rickon inclined head. So agreed. Manderley led a cheer that echoed off icy stones. Swords hammered shields. Even Baratheon knights exhaled relief. Winter demanded soldiers, not civil war. The accord woven, Winterfell's courtyards burst into feverish industry. Manderley's masons plotted a new grain granary near the west wall. Blackwood engineers erected a platform for scorpion ballistae. Stannis quartermasters unloaded barrels of dried fish, bolts of canvas, bundles of spear shafts. Crannogmen patched the moat's collapsed iceward side, weaving reed mats and setting stakes like teeth against whites. Tiny oversaw a makeshift infirmary in the broken tower's base, distilling willow bark and ghost-cap mushrooms into pain draught. Her gentle murmurs carried through corridors, lulling feverish children. Nymeria served as messenger marshal, dispatching couriers on fleet sand steeds to Baraton, White Harbor, Bear Island. Obera drilled recruits day and night, her staff cracking ribs of complacency. Shield walls learned to pivot, archers to loose by volley, then scatter. Rickon spent dawns mapping windwhip angles atop the towers. Dusk bent over parchments with John plotting supply chains northward. At night he slipped to the godswood where Heart Tree's eyes bled crimson tears of sap, and there he knelt, whispering to Bran across leagues, an act of faith in distant brothers' hidden magic. One freezing twilight a horn blast rolled from the east ramparts. Riders appeared, cloaks of sand gold and ash rose billowing. Prince Doran's banner, the Sunspear of Martell. At their head rode Arianne Martell in sable-lined cloak, cheeks flushed in chill. She dismounted gracefully, her breath fogged as she greeted Rickon with clasped forearms. Dorne keeps its oaths. 20 wagons of citrus, spiced wine, cured goat meat, and my lance. The deserts have not forgotten the cub they fostered. Her retinue read like legend. Sir Garrus Drinkwater, Sir Daemon Sand, the bastard of God's grace. 200 spears of the Desert Guard mounted on sand steeds. Obara smirked. Little sister comes north to taste snow? Arianne's eyes sparkled. To remind Snow why heat matters. She embraced Nymeria, clasped Tinian's hands. Sunspear stands with Winterfell. Stannis watched their arrival from Rampart, mouth hard. But he raised no objection. Supplies were supplies. Days blended. Word arrived of White Walkers attacking Eastwatch. Jon's face hollowed. He prepared to ride with 500 to the wall, bringing Stannis ships via the White Knife upriver to Castle Serwyn's docks, then overland with sledges. Rickon longed to go, but Winterfell still needed a start. Jon clasped his forearm. Hold the gate, I'll hold the wall. In secret, Tyene pressed a vial into Jon's glove. Black scorpion venom burns frostbite from veins. He thanked her wearily. On departure dawn, snow swirling, Jon embraced Rickon again. Tell Bran I believe, he whispered. Then he rode north with Ghost loping silent. Without Jon, weight of rule pressed heavier. But fresh purpose thrummed through Winterfell's halls. Refugees poured daily. Hill clansmen seeking shelter, minor families from the rills. Arianne organized communal kitchens, turning Martell lemons into pottage scented bright amid cold air. The smell alone lifted spirits. One morning Mira Reed arrived ragged, bearing dire news. The Night King rides a storm south of the Shadow Tower. The wall may not hold more than a moon. She told of Bran's journey, his power awakening, his reach dividing time like threads. Rickon listened, heart pounding. Can he help? He is helping, Mira said, eyes shining. But he needs you, wolf and spear entwined. He said so in dream. Rickon recalled Serpent Wolf dream. Spear bell ring? He nodded. What must I do? Mira handed him a woven bracelet of charred weirwood beads. Where when you sleep, he will find you. That night, beneath furs in Lord's chambers, Rickon clutched bracelet. As candle guttered, he felt tug behind eyes, a blink inside skull. The room faded into weirwood haze. He stood in snowy forest, yet above shimmered dunes under twin suns. A boy emerged from mists, Bran taller, eyes white with power. Shaggy Dog padded beside him, fur black flame. Rickon, Bran's voice echoed like wind through caverns. The wall will break. You must hold the living together. North and south must not fracture. Light spears from Dorne will temper ice swords of the north. How? Rickon asked the dream. Bind the packs, Bran said, and beware the faceless storm within your walls. The forest melted. Rickon woke before dawn, sweat freezing on brow. He rose, paced stone floor. Faceless storm? Meaning? He thought of Karstark resentment, Bolton survivors plotting. even Melisandre's shadows. He ordered doubling of gate guards and secret watchers on inner ring walls. 2 nights later, alarm bells pealed before midnight. Rickon, half-armored, sprinted crooked corridors toward Cry. In the kennel yard, flames licked at hay bales. Hounds yelped. A silhouette darted, slashing ropes on stall doors. Horses bolted into courtyard. Obara vaulted from aloft, staff whirling. The figure flicked twin knives coated with glistening fluid, Tyena's stolen poisons. Obara deflected one, but the other nicked her thigh. She gritted, kept advancing. Rickon leapt from walkway, tackling intruder. They rolled through muck. Moonlight caught familiar face. The Bolton master-at-arms, Rook, thought dead at Mokalin. Beneath cloak, pockets of black vials clinked. He hissed, "Boltons die screaming, but so do snakes." He smashed vial toward Rickon's face. Rickon jerked aside, glass shattered, fumes sizzling. Obara's staff cracked his wrist. Poison spilled onto his own skin. Rook shrieked, flesh bubbling, collapsed. Tyene rushed forward, applying powdered milk poppy to Obara's wound. Gray cap, venom. "Slow, you'll live," Obara grunted, wiping sweat. Rickon surveyed fires spreading along hay. He grabbed bucket line, fought flames until dawn smeared horizon. 10 horses lost, 3 dogs, but castle stood. In quiet aftermath, he searched Rook's corpse, a letter sealed with Frey colors, promising coin for Winterfell's sabotage. Faceless storm within walls, Bran's warning realized. He gathered lords in hall, laying corpse and letter before them. This is what division offers, open doors to our true enemy. A hush settled. Lady Dustin stepped forward unexpectedly. "I hated your father, yet flaying children sickens me. Wars changed our blood. Show me who threatens the north, and Dustin's swords will match your." "Ben," Rickon inclined head. "Welcome to the pack." That twilight they burned Rook's body beyond walls, flames blew in icy wind. Melisandre watched, lips shaping prayer to R'hllor. Sparks rose like fireflies lost among snowflakes. A fortnight later, a black-winged raven arrived, Jon's personal bird. Its message bore frost along feather shafts. Eastwatch breached, wall compromised near the gorge. Jon and survivors retreat to Last Hearth, requesting reinforcements, dragonglass, fire oil. Stannis' fleet wrecked by ice riders. Only 3 ships reached harbor. Rickon summoned council. Panic flickered, but he hammered table. "We march." He committed every able spear not essential to Winterfell's defense. 2,000 Northmen, Arianne's desert guard, sand snakes as captains. Lady Mage assumed castle's defense, with Reed and Glover reserves. Davos volunteered to tend supply lines, but Rickon insisted he ride. They needed his council and his smugglers, knack for impossible routes. They loaded wagons with dragonglass daggers mined in dragonstone, barrels of flammable resin Tyene spiked with wildfire shards, sacks of lemon-infused salt that Dornish lore claimed repelled frost spiders. Carpenters fashioned sledges for the resin casks, hitching them to shaggier northern oxen. Departure morning dawned ghostly. Sun a pale coin. Before Rickon mounted, Tyene clasped his face, pressed lips to his brow. "Return whole." Nymeria handed him a fresh cedar spear, tipped with Valyrian steel dagger she'd reforged. Obara slapped his pauldron. "Let ice taste the desert's sting." Arianne rode at his side on a dappled palfrey draped in sunrise orange cloth. "Shall we show the dead how Dornish kiss?" "Just try not to melt the snow," Rickon replied, smiling despite weight in gut. They pushed east, then north, following white knife's frozen shallows. Hoofbeats drumming muffled resonance under ice. Twice, frost-tipped whites emerged from drifted pines. Nymeria's archers felled them with obsidian arrows, black glass shards humming. Obara insisted on burning remains in pits of resin that spat green tongues of flame, lest corpses rise again. On the 3rd day, scouts encountered a ragged column limping south. Knights watched survivors, escorting farmers. Jon rode at front, face gaunt, cloak torn. Ghost trotted, muzzle stained blue with blood that steamed. He spurred forward at sight of Rickon, exhaustion cracking mask into relief. They clasped forearms. Then Rickon turned to the line behind. Less than 200 remained of 500. Frostburn and shattered weapons marred them. John's voice rasped. The dead bring giants of ice. They punched through Eastwatch, tore the gate with bare hands. We set fire trenches, but winds snuffed them. He shuddered. The Night King rides a creature of cold flame. Rickon steadied. Here, we stand long enough for the realm to answer. He pointed to ridge a mile north, the ruins of an old Umber wayfort. We fortify last Harf's approach. Winterfell remains fallback. John nodded, hollow-eyed. I fear fallback might be all we have, but fear could not feed fires. They set to work. Engineers built ramparts of felled spruce, lacing gaps with iron spikes, tiny dipped in obsidian slivers. Cranagmen flooded outer ditch, which froze into slick moat. Every man and woman learned to notch dragonglass arrowheads. Ariane's guard taught dance of spears, fluid strikes turning momentum to advantage. Even reed girls learned to sling resin flasks. Night fell bone-numb. In command tent, Rickon studied maps by lantern glow with John Davos and Lady Mormont de Dot. The dead come in waves, John said, finger tracing valley. If we hold ridge and funnel them to the moat, archers can thin numbers before they breach inner line. And giants? Davos asked. We pit fire beneath snow, Rickon proposed. When weight breaks crust, they drop into pits loaded with resin. He met Tyenne's gaze across tent. She nodded, already calculating measures. Wind howled outside. Rickon stepped to flap, stared into black dotted by campfires. He felt a stir inside. Fear, yes, but also fierce anticipation. A storm within walls, Bran had warned. They had faced it. Now storm approached in flesh of ice. He touched wristband rings, memory bound to purpose. 2 nights later, the bells cried warning, white shapes blotting tree line, silent as moonlight. The dead came, ribs rhymed, eyes blue lanterns. Snow devils swirled around them, shrieking banshee wails. Ice spiders scuttled over mounds, webs sparkling like crystal. Behind ranks lumbered giants hoisting trunks as maces, their beards icicles. Rickon mounted rampart, spear glittering. Beside him, Ariane knocked obsidian-tipped arrow, her breath clouds. John drew Longclaw, newly reforged with dragonglass vein along fuller. Ghost growled low. At Rickon's signal, horns blared. Fire arrows streaked, peppering first ranks. Bodies ignited with eerie blue flames, collapsing but crawling even as bone charred. Cannons of resin hurled from torsion rigs burst in emerald explosions, flinging shards into clusters. The dead faltered, regrouped. Giants advanced, clubbing aside burning whites. Obara led 50 spearmen across exterior catwalk, taunting Giant into charge. Snowcrust gave. Giant crashed through disguised timber pit filled with resin. Tiny tossed torch. Pit erupted, white fire roaring. Giant bellowed, limbs splintering. Its fall blocked path, creating choke. Yet the tide seemed endless. Wave upon wave crashed. Hours blurred. Nymeria's voice rang harsh from hoarse command, unleashing volley after volley. Manderly sailors manned scorpions, launching harpoons tipped with dragonglass shards at ice spiders, shattering crystalline shells. Then a hush like grave fell. Shapes parted. Upon a skeletal horse of frost rode the Night King, armor shimmering starlight, crown of ice horns. His gaze fixed bastion. With lifted hand he signaled. Bitter wind howled, extinguishing torches along western wall. Darkness swallowed vantage. Fear rippled. Rickon steadied breath. Like the desert fire, Ariane's guard hurled ceramic pots packed with Dornish hell powder across moat. Tyenne's sparks ignited them. A curtain of turquoise fire roared, driving back immediate surge. But ice shards rained from Night King's raised spears of cold. Each impact doused flame. Frost spreading. Rampart beams iced over, cracking. A white walker captain vaulted ditch. Blade of crystal slicing through shields like parchment. Rickon leapt to meet him. Cedar spear clashed with ice blade. Sparks of frost and iron hissed. Steel dagger tip grazed Walker's neck, but froze on contact. Rickon pivoted, recalling Obara's lessons. Use angle. He turned spear, striking under armpit. Valyrian steel edge bit. Walker shrieked, shattered into shards that flashed sapphire, then dust. But more poured in. Jon fought near gate, long claw carving arcs of blue embers each time it glanced Walker's steel. Davos rallied line at center, cutlass dripping frost shards. Obara urged recruits with roars, ignoring her own reopened thigh wound. Still the dead pressed. They were many. Living were bone-tired. Sudden blast of trumpet from South Ridge. Riders, bannerless approaching. In torchlight, their sigils emerged. A red dragon on black, wings spread, Targaryen, and with them, the flayed man crossed by a crimson slash. Karstarks bearing Boltons captured standards reversed. At their head rode a woman in dark leathers, silver hair whipping. Denry Stormborn, dragons circling overhead. Viserion and Rhaegal grown huge though scarred from far wars. Flames coughed from dragon maws, bathing dead in infernos. Sky turned molten gold. A beat later, Karstark cavalry smashed into flank. Shocking undead line. Mormont spears rallied, pushing outward. On rampart Rickon stared as Viserion swooped, frost steaming from char-flayed bones reanimating. The dragon's breath incinerated them anew. Daenerys landed her mount atop hillock. Jon strode to her, surprise and fierce relief mingling. She clasped his hands, words lost in din, but Rickon read vow of alliance in their eyes. Night King observed dragons with chilling calm. He withdrew, raising arm. A spear of ice formed. He hurled at Viserion. Dragon banked, but spear clipped wing, shards exploding. Daenerys urged beast high, avoiding second throw. Rhaegal dove, green fire sheeting front ranks. Rickon saw moment. Night King exposed atop ridge. He signaled Nymeria. She knocked black fletch arrow laced with Tyenne's wildfire paste and dragonglass head. Rickon steadied her elbow, heart hammering. She loosed. Arrow streaked. Wind curled. It struck Night King's horse, not rider, creature shattered. The king toppled but rolled lithe, spear materializing again. From east, a howl echoed. Ghost? No, deeper. Shaggy dog's echo. Then massive shadow emerged, a dire wolf of smoke, eyes emerald, bounding through ranks, Bran's warged phantom. It leapt at night, king, jaws snapping. Spectral teeth distracted icy monarch long enough for Jon to sprint across blood-slushed snow, long claw raised. Night King parried, but Valyrian edge met ice, sparks flaming blue. Rickon charged too, cedar spear reversed, aiming for flank. Battle slowed to heartbeat tempo. Jon's sword carved overhead. Night King countered with chilling grace. Rickon thrust low, drawing attention. Night King pivoted, slashing, grazing Rickon's pauldron. Ice burned through steel. Pain lanced. He dropped a knee but jammed spear haft into enemy ankle joint. The Walker Lord faltered fraction. Jon drove Longclaw home into gap in chestplate. For an eye blink, nothing happened. Then fissures spread, luminous cracks spidering from wound. Night King's gaze met Rickon's. Within it, centuries of cold hatred, and shattered. Body dissolved to powder on wind. A roar rose, living and dragon alike. Remaining walkers cracked, flared, collapsed. Whites froze mid-lunge and fell as strings cut. Silence crept, broken by crackle of smoldering fires, by ragged breathing of survivors. Snowflakes drifted again, soft as before. Rickon sagged to sitting, spear across lap. Jon knelt, gripping brother's shoulder. Daenerys stood behind, dragons circling overhead. Obara limped over, dragging Tiny, who clutched bleeding hand. Nymeria right behind, still knocking arrow though battle done. Rickon stared at moon through drifting clouds and felt weight of nights, deserts, storms lifting, replaced by something fragile yet bright. a dawn awaiting forging. Days passed counting dead, burning remains, binding wounds. They buried fallen under cairns of ice stone and granite, each mound crowned with weirwood branch, and Martell's Sunspear crossed. North and South united in death, as in battle. Jon and Daenerys shared war councils, planning dragon sorties to chase remnant white packs. Stannis marched from Winterfell with reinforcements, but found victory already sealed. His face mixed rue and reluctant respect. In the great hall of Last Hearth, patched with canvases, Rickon convened all commanders. He stood between Jon and Daenerys, Obara at left, Melisandre at right, Davos ahead with scroll. Banners of wolf, dragon, stag, rose, spear-lined rafters. The wind whistled through gaps. Rickon spoke. "The Night King is fallen, yet winter remains. Famine, ruin, plague. We rebuild together." He announced the pact of snow and sun, North Sovereign, allied to Targaryen Baratheon throne of the South. Dorne and Riverland signatories. Night's Watch granted resources as independent shield. Stannis looked ready to object, but Melisandre's touch restrained him. "Fire and ice have forged a blade no storm may break," she intoned. "Let the kingdom of men sheath it wisely." Daenerys agreed. Unconditioned slavery never again darken Westeros. A demand met gladly. Jon seconded, as steward of the wall. Lord signed. Obara's bold scrawl, beneath Martell's sigil. Tyne Yadadai with tiny heart. Nymeria traced serpent coil. Davos signed with flourishing onion, chuckling. That night, feast unlike any North had known. Dornish wine warmed blood. Northern ale frothed. Karstark venison, stewed with citrine oranges. Arianne danced with Lady Mage in circle of drums. Snowflakes swirling through skylight as partners twirled. Nymeria coaxed Jon into slow turn. He stumbled, smiling rare. Tyne poured spiced liquor for Davos, who coughed, then laughed loud. Rickon wandered to courtyard where fires still smoldered in braziers. Ghost padded silent. Shaggy Dog's memory brushed him. He looked up. Rhaegal perched on tower ruins, breathing warm smoke into night. Stars glittered between drifting clouds, brighter than he remembered. Footsteps crunching frost. Bran, born on litter by Mira, and 2 watch brothers. His face pale, but eyes alive with depth of ages. They set him near brazier. Rickon knelt. Bran raised gloved hand. Rickon clasped it. "You did it," Bran whispered, voice wind thin. "Pack bound." "Not alone," Rickon said. "Never alone," Bran echoed. Eyes turned white. For heartbeat, Rickon glimpsed reflection of desert sun lapping sea of Dorne, of Winterfell snows, of dragon wings, eclipsing moon. Then, Bran's irises returned. "The song continues, but chorus will be your own." Rickon smiled crookedly. "I never fancied myself singer. Lead, and their voices follow." He squeezed Bran's hand and stood, facing flickering firelight, kissing snow. The long night's terror receded beyond horizon, leaving scars in sky that would heal slowly. Rebuilding would take years, yet he felt no dread. In forged alliances, in tempered hearts, in memory of those lost, he found steady warmth. A hush of wings overhead, Viserion rising to circle with Brother Dragon, scales reflecting aurora. In their silhouettes, Rickon envisioned new banners, wolf entwined with serpent beneath rising sun, dragons soaring above, snow-capped mountains beyond. A realm, once fractured, now bound by necessity and by choice. He slipped wristband from arm, studying twin rings cut from Shaggy Dog's collar. Now dulled, scratched. He kissed the metal, tasted salt of sweat and tears, then fastened it again. "Home," he murmured tonight. And night, for first time in many years, felt like friend.